Hello everybody. In our yesterday's lecture, we had focused on the atomic models proposed by Dalton, Sir J.J. Thomson and Rutherford's model. Rutherford's model was based on the scattering experiment, and this scattering experiment was put forth by Greber and Marsden, and we also saw the discrepancies in Rutherford's model. All the discrepancies in Rutherford's model were removed by Niels Bohr in his three important postulates. These postulates were proposed by Niels Bohr on the basis of hydrogen spectra, the quantum theory, and these postulates are as follows. The first postulate indicates that if there is an electron which is revolving around the positively charged nucleus, the centripetal force of the electron is balanced by the Coulomb force of attraction between the positively charged nucleus and the negatively charged electron. Mathematically, this equation for Bohr's first postulate can be put up as MEVN square upon Rn square, which represents the centripetal force. Generally, it is mv square upon r, but here we use the subscript e for charge of an electron, n as the orbit number. That is equal to the Coulomb force Ze square upon 4 pi epsilon 0 Rn square. Let us see the terms one by one. M, E, mass of the electron, V, velocity of the electron in the nth orbit, Rn, the radius of the orbit in which the electron is revolving around the nucleus. In Coulomb force of attraction, we have Z as the atomic number, E as once again the charge, then epsilon 0 as the permittivity of free space, and square of the radius. Once again, we summarize Bohr's postulate as the centripetal force acting on an electron revolving around the nucleus is balanced by the Coulomb force of attraction between the negatively charged electron and the positively charged nucleus. The second postulate is equally important. Here we say that the second postulate puts a restriction on in which orbit the electron should revolve. It just cannot revolve in any orbit it means to. This restriction is if the electron is revolving in the nth orbit, the angular momentum of the electron, usually angular momentum is a term which is given by mr omega square, or it is also given by mvr. We use the same term here, but here mvr has a subscript mn, vn, rn. So the angular momentum of the electron revolving in the orbit should be equal to an integral multiple of nh upon 2 pi, where h is called as a Planck's constant. N, once again, is the number of the orbit. So the second postulate states that the angular momentum of the electron should be equal to the integral multiple of the orbital number. Thus, let us elaborate on Bohr's third postulate. Bohr's third postulate states that whenever an electron undergoes a transition from a higher orbit to a lower orbit, in fact, from a higher energy orbit to a lower energy orbit, the difference in the energies of these orbits is emitted in the form of radiation. Each radiation or each packet of radiation is called as a quantum of radiation or energy packet, and this E energy is equal to h nu. So when an electron undergoes a transition from the higher energy state to a lower energy state, it emits radiation equal to energy equal to h nu, where h is Planck's constant and nu is the frequency of the incident radiation. In fact, the process of the electron jumping from the higher orbit to the lower orbit or from the lower orbit to a higher orbit is called as a transition. In the diagram we can see that these are the orbits, the first orbit, the second orbit, the third orbit, the fourth orbit, the fifth orbit, and so on. But any electron which is in the higher orbit, we call the electron is in an excited state or higher energy state, and when it jumps to a lower energy state or the ground state, the difference in these energies is given out in the form of radiation or energy packets in the form of h nu. This term E equal to h nu indicates the energy of the radiation having frequency equal to mu. So this is about Bohr's third postulate. We are going to use the first and the second postulate to calculate the radii of the orbits in our next mathematical derivation. In order to calculate the radii of the orbits, we have to take the help of the first postulate and the second postulate respectively. The first postulate mathematical equation is me Vn square upon Rn is equal to Ze square upon 4 pi epsilon 0 Rn square. Let us keep Vn square aside. The velocity is equal to Ze square upon 4 pi epsilon 0 me. One term of Rn gets cancelled and we call this as the first equation. Now for the second Bohr's postulate, which stands as Mn Vn Rn square, Rn is equal to Nh upon 2 pi. We have to square this equation, and the equation will now read as Mn square Vn square Rn square is equal to n square h square upon 4 pi square. The second term, and putting Vn square aside, we have Vn square is equal to n square h square upon 4 pi square Mn square Rn square. Let us call it as equation number 2. We see that both equations have LHS as Vn square, and equating the terms on the right hand side, we get the appropriate equation for the radius. Now let us see which terms get cancelled. From the first equation we have Ze square upon 4 pi epsilon 0 me Rn is equal to n square h square divided by 4 pi square Mn square Rn square. Now which of the terms get cancelled? They are 4 pi, 1 pi gets cancelled. Then out of Me and Rn, each of them gets cancelled, and therefore we have the radius of the orbit as it is given by Rn on this side is equal to epsilon 0 n square h square divided by pi m n subscript and e square with z multiplied to it. So this is the equation which indicates the radius of the Bohr orbit, or the radius of the orbit in which the electron is revolving, given by epsilon 0 square n square h square upon pi mn e square z. Let us separate the constant quantities. We see here that epsilon 0 is a constant quantity, h as Planck's constant, pi a constant, mass of the electron is constant, and therefore the charge of the electron also constant, and for the given atom z is going to remain the same. Therefore we say that putting all the constant quantities aside in a specific manner, here we have Rn proportional to n square, which states that the radius of the orbit is proportional to the square of the orbital number. Remember, it is the square of the orbital number and not just the square. Now if we put all these constant quantities, epsilon 0 permittivity of free space 8.85 into 10 raised to minus 12 coulomb square per meter square, h Planck's constant 6.63 into 10 raised to minus 34 joule second, pi 3.142, mass of the electron, Me, so that is 9.9 into 10 raised to minus 31, kilogram, E as the charge of the electron 1.6 into 10 raised to minus 19 coulomb. We have the radius of the orbit is proportional to the square of the orbit number. Putting all these constant quantities, we have for the first orbit the radius is equal to 0.053 nanometer, and if we put these constant quantities together, we have Rn equal to A0 n square, where A0 stands for epsilon 0 h square upon pi me square, where this term a0 is called as the Bohr radius. And ultimately we can find out the radii of the other orbits also, putting these constant quantities for r1 equal to 0.153 and so on, using the simple relation Rn proportional to n square. Now let us discuss about the energy of the electron which is revolving in any of the orbits. So for the energy of the electron which is revolving around the nucleus, total energy of the electron is given by kinetic energy possessed by the electron plus potential energy of the electron. Now let us focus on the kinetic energy of the electron. The usual term for kinetic energy, as we know, is 1/2 mv square, but we are given the subscript e and n for the number of the orbit. So this, according to Bohr's first postulate and reducing one of the r's on the other side, we have kinetic energy equal to Ze square divided by 8 pi epsilon 0 r. Let us call this as equation number 1. The potential energy of any electron is given by potential possessed by the electron multiplied by charge, which is Ze upon 4 pi epsilon 0 r into minus e, which gives you the equation minus Ze square upon 4 pi epsilon 0 r. This is called the equation number 2. So the total energy, which is the sum of first and second in this term, gives you Ze square upon 4 pi epsilon 0 r1. From our equation for radius of the orbit, we substitute Rn equal to n square h square epsilon 0 divided by pi me Ze square, which gives us the final equation En is equal to me z e raised to 4 divided by 8 epsilon square n square h square. Now from this equation we have certain constant quantities like the last term, where we see that this m, the z, the e, the epsilon 0 term and the h term, all these terms are constant, which give us one more relation saying that En is proportional to 1 upon n square. That is, energy of the electron in that particular orbit is inversely proportional to the square of the orbit number. So we have one more important formula here given by En proportional to 1 upon n square.